Good morning on this last day of 2024, the 31st of December. This is Norman Michaelation with ICAC Unpacked. I'm going to do a quick video, hopefully a quick video. Cardinal News this morning is reporting that Delegate Michael Jones, who's a relatively new Democrat out of the Richmond area, made an unannounced visit along with a staffer to the Red Onion Prison near Pound, Virginia, which is in Wise County. Um, Wise County is in if you look at Virginia as a piece of pumpkin pie, with the northern part being the fatter part and the skinny part, the narrower part being southwest Virginia, you get an idea of where we're talking. And he traveled several hours unannounced with his staffer, and they went there to investigate what was going on. And that was the perfect opportunity. Very wisely, the Department of Corrections called their chief, Mr. Dotson, and Dotson very wisely gave consent. If he had not, that would have been a huge scandal in and of itself. But I can tell you from being in an incarcerated situation, what they're talking about, these prisoners, is not crazy stuff. All right, you do have people when they have a little bit of power and not very much oversight, they do in fact abuse it. So while it is very interesting that Dotson claimed that it was simply mental um, challenges that inmates were having that had nothing to do with staff, you can understand why he might say that. It's a CYA move. It's also true that, corrections people are overworked, they're understaffed. Not very many people want to do that. It's not a fun job. Inmates are not always very pleasant. And some of them have very shady pasts. I know just being in the Fairfax County Jail, walking around the gym, you would see tablets of medicine that were put up in little um, what, tissues or whatever, and sitting there. And me being a bit of a neat freak, you wouldn't know it by how I'm dressed now, but I am. I grabbed one of them to throw it away and realized that there was a tablet there and slid it right back onto a shelf there along the edge. I mean, there's all sorts of shenanigans going around where people are sharing things. Um, and I can believe what they're saying, that on both sides, that what the corrections people are witnessing is perhaps a bit overblown, but it's also true that I've seen the most amazing abuses by corrections people too that were simply inexcusable. I don't care how overworked they are. Be that as it may, the delegate went there, and let me describe the delegate. He is very tall, very broad, big, imposing black man, but very kind, very intelligent, and very gregarious. He and I and several others met with For Justice Virginia when I was doing some lobbying with them last year. And telling him about some of these things really bothered him. Um, and particularly, I was telling him about what was going on with some of the prisons. We talked about the need for prison reform. So the Office of the Ombudsman is not quite up and running, according to what I'm reading here with Cardinal News. And it just gives you an idea that the way that you want to approach all of these cases, including that of the stings, is you have to have people willing to go toe to toe with the officials in charge and just bring the fight to them and say, we're not interested in just your view of things. Show up unannounced, approach them unannounced, ask them, where are the ICAC statistics, for example? Where are all this evidence of all this child predation? And by the way, more importantly than that, in some respects, and I'm not saying that, not rescuing children is not important. I'm not saying that. Too many negatives there. But the idea is, can you rescue children and not destroy people's lives of innocence when they're adults as well? If you have innocent adults who are minding their own business on an adult platform, what are you doing trolling there? That's a question that I would like the delegate to answer. I would like all the delegates and senators. Our own useless delegate here, Delegate Torian, is more interested in looking good and tinkering with the budget than actually being a man and being a pastor. He's supposedly a pastor, a man of God, who will not meet with us, whose representative liaison refuses to set up a meeting, who refuses to talk to the delegate because apparently the delegate has made it clear that he's not interested. I got as I did meet with Delegate Michael here, but I managed to make it 20 feet from Delegate Luke Torian's office, and before the door was closed, with somebody else who had slipped in ahead of me. So I met with his chief of staff, and I was, no holds barred. I mean, he's useless, utterly useless. Almost as useless is Senator McPike, who has knocked on my door thinking it was somebody else, who also lives here, one of my tenants, of his acquaintance, and was surprised to see me. And when I met with the delegate in his office, I'm sorry, the senator in his office, he basically looked at me sadly and shrugged and said, well, there's not much they can do about it because they're not interested in losing their majority. Of course, it doesn't matter that they destroyed people's lives. It doesn't matter that they stole my pension. It doesn't matter that there are thousands of people across the Commonwealth who have been attacked viciously by the Stings, who weren't actually engaged in any wrongdoing, who weren't actually doing anything. Um, and then there's the issue of, excuse me, the people who were, and what would be the best way to handle this. People are getting 5 to 7 years by talking dirty. Okay. Is this the best way to do it? Shouldn't we have something more like Caitlin Grimley, who actually has sex with a 13 and 14-year-old boy, 13 or 14-year-old boy? Shouldn't that be the standard where we have somebody who has a no criminal background, a restorative justice option available to them, where they aren't incarcerated, where they're not destroyed, where they can live out their life in peace and make a good living still? Um, as I've said before, if Caitlin Grimley's of the world get away with it for actually having sex and are not destroyed, what about those of us who didn't actually do anything or who simply talked dirty online in a forum where fantasy reigns supreme? So it would be nice if, while it's wonderful that the delegate went to Red Onion unsolicited, it would be nice if we had more of that kind of thing, pushing back on the cops, pushing back on other agencies, like even the Department of Education, and demanding answers without getting the sanitized, you know, uh, shuffle and dance that they do before these folks most of the time. So hopefully in the new year, we will have cases where we actually can bring the fight to them and where they actually come up with, no registry or maximum of 5 years on the registry, or, you know, getting rid of no contact offenses as a registry issue, and move on where we can actually have a sense of peace and prosperity and be able to get on with their lives, just like they do for people who have multiple drunk driving offenses or multiple theft offenses or multiple drug offenses, all of which they used to hammer in a bygone era some 30 years ago. In the new year, I wish everybody peace and prosperity. This is Norman Michael Asian for ICAC Unpacked. Have a good day.